Hey folks, this is Echo. Welcome to Horde Base Breakdown. This is a series where I show you a base and teach you all of its features, and then either give you a build guide or show you some design tips, toss a horde at it, and then judge it. In this episode, we'll be talking about Void's End, my last base of Alpha 20. Hello folks, and welcome to Void's End. This horde base was built over a series of 2 or 3 live streams over on YouTube where I took kind of feedback from the community, and I had an initial idea in mind when I started off, and that was born of my 5x5 challenge that I did from Glocks, and I had kind of this spiral staircase, and that's how we got to the horde base section. The rest of this was all kind of created organically as, I started the stream. So I'm going to start walking around the base here. We'll give you the tour here. So we've got an automated drawbridge that lets us in here. We've got a switch that acts essentially as a lock. So this shuts the bridge and makes it so that the motion sensors no longer function. I find this useful for Horde Night, so you don't have to worry about that. Alternatively, if you want to leave it open, you can do that and have one more way to get back in the base. The 2 side doors here house just some of the electronic components. You can see the motion sensors out there that are controlling the gate out front. They're using an arrow slit at the top to be able to see through. And then this also gives us kind of our lighting pattern just for, design purposes and making the room look interesting. On the floor below this, nothing special to see here. We double walled the bottom of this just for safety's sake, and we added mushrooms down here just because it was a convenient place to put them. Next, we'll head upward through the main spire here. And the next level up from here, this is how we access the horde portions. So there's 1 tower in that direction and 1 tower in the other. We're going to go all the way up to the top, and then we'll come back to here and show you those parts of the base. So the next level up is our gyrocopter, landing and takeoff pad here. And this is also where we house some of the power for the base. There's a few different areas where we've got these set up, but we've got a solar bank and a battery bank, and that is mirrored on the other side, and that's controlling the lighting here, as well as helping power the drawbridges below us. So this is another automated drawbridge here with the on-off switch, same as the one below that you can shut off for Horde Night to not have to worry about things. The next level up from here is our crafting area. So I've used some of the tricks that I've done in the past. I've got air ducts in the ceiling, which allow light to pass through so that we can have a garden inside the area. All the boxes across the bottom are all storage. They're just painted. So we've got our standard array of crafting stations here. I realized I didn't put a chem station or a workbench in here, but we could easily just trim back on some of the planting areas and add those in. But otherwise, this has everything that you need in terms of base. The rest of this up here is all just for design and making things interesting looking from the outside. We've got the ladder that goes up 1 more level because we do light the top of the base, and it's again just for visual interest, but I've got spotlights here that are facing into these crazy spires that I've built all the way around to illuminate things at night, and I also have them pointing up at the big orb sitting atop the base. We've also got a few more, I think just 1 more solar bank up here to power all these, so I don't have to drag cabling through the base. Now, as we move into Alpha 21, that won't be as much of a concern because we won't have to hide cables, and we can, make runs a little bit easier. So let's go check out the horde section of the base. So we're going to come down past the gyrocopter level. If I can get down the ladder, there we go. And during Horde Night, you would typically close that just for safety. Now, we did build the ladder 2 up, kind of like we've done here. so that zombies cannot get onto that. But, you know, I like to be safe. So over here, we've got trigger plates, which will open the drawbridge, and they're on each side. And that takes you to the horde fighting position. So you're going to want to go down a few levels because this is built with redundant fallback points. So here is the first point that the zombies will come in. So depending upon which tower you're standing in, they will path up the stairs and they will come to this fighting position. The idea behind this is that you come in here, you drop these two doors that closes everything up. You've got a switch here to the side that you turn on, and that's going to turn on these two blade traps on each side, as well as the electric fence that's going top to bottom across here. So that gives you a lot of protection, slows them down, allows you to sit here and melee easily. This shelf here is handy because you can lay grenades on it. Alternatively, I found out much easier is you can pull back to here and actually just huck grenades right up against that gate. It's going to do a little bit of damage to the blocks, but grenades don't do a lot of block damage. So still pretty useful. Same thing, you can pull back to here and throw your Molotovs right through that hole, and you're going to catch all the zombies sitting on the other side. So at some point in time on a max level horde, they're going to bust through this and you're going to have to fall back. So at that point in time, either they'll break through the blocks and you'll need to run, or you can kind of let them through. If you lose the blade traps to a demo or something like that, and then you're just going to pivot. You're going to come back up to here, being careful to hug the edge as you go across, and then close these up. The funny thing is because of how this is designed down here, this wedge, a lot of times the zombies come running up here and just kind of toss themselves straight off the edge and then cycle back around. But anyway, same situation here. You'll shut these off. You'll come over here and you'll flip your blade traps and your electric fence on and you're good to go. I should also mention, one of the handy things about this is you can easily repair. So the end of the electric fence is right here. You can reach the blade traps through here and through here. So everything is repairable from this fighting position. So if you get to the point where this space is also compromised, you still have another fallback. So you come back here to your bridge. As you come across, same situation as before, you've got a lock in here. So if you switch that down, then it's not going to allow this to open. And that is important because if you're using trigger plates, the zombies can step on these and it would open that. Now, granted, once you've moved to the other building, it's unlikely that they're going to follow that path, but I'm a big fan of making sure that you've got fail safes. So once we get to the other side, it's a rinse and repeat situation. Same thing, you'll move all the way to the bottom, you'll move back through these, cut around the corner and move to the first fighting position. And make sure that this is closed like that. So that's the basic setup. A couple last things to show off on the base here. We use the center of this tower on both sides actually to run all the cabling, so you can see the relays go all the way down to the bottom there. We've got a light at the bottom, and all the lights on the outside are also done through here. Following up to the top, you've got another solar bank, one in each side, that powers the individual towers for all the traps and all the lighting. If I can make it back down here, there we go. So I just realized I didn't put the block here that I was supposed to, so we'll have to update that. So the last thing that I will show off is the kind of unique ramp style that I built here. So on this base, and we'll open this back up, we've got lighting that illuminates the front face of the base. And then down below here, I made this design that I really liked, just something different from a ramp perspective to give, other than just a big block. So really liked how this design came out. Additionally, for all the power and the lighting here, we have yet another solar array. So if you come down here, I've got all the cables nicely managed. We've got a solar array right at the front. And again, using that lovely air duct trick up here, we bring in power and then distribute it via the relays throughout the rest of the area above the ramp. So those are the major features of the base. Go ahead and hit me up in the comments if you have any questions on anything that I've walked through. If you're looking to download this, I already have this up on Patreon, but I am also going to go through a few design aspects here real quick, and then we'll jump on into Horde Night. So for design, we'll start with the 2 flanking towers and the spherical object that sits atop them. This one looks complicated, but actually only has 3 different parts. Each of the intersections in red, we have 3M gyro sculpture connectors. Then all the black shapes between are 3M gyro sculpture curves. And finally, there's a yellow 1M sphere in the center. So next, we're going to move up from a 3-meter structure up to a 5-meter dome. The best way to think about this is 2 half spheres. So starting with the top half of the sphere in pink, we have the Cube 5M Dome Top 01, and then in the 4 directions around it in yellow, you have Cube 5M Dome Top 02. In the corners of that first layer in green, you have Cube 5M Tops 03. Next, we move down to the middle layer. That little red wedge that you see is a Cube 5M Dome Middle 01. Then right below it in orange, you've got the Middle 02, and then flanking it on the 2 sides in blue are the Dome Middle 03. Finally, on the bottom level, in the checkerboard pattern, we have a Cube 5M Dome Bottom 04. The middle there in purple is a Bottom 01, and then the camouflage on the right is a Dome Bottom 02. So all you have to do is think about flipping this and rebuilding it upside down underneath, and you've got a full sphere. For design purposes in this one, I left out some of the blocks that you would use to make a full sphere. So if you wanted to add those in, you'd add in Dome Middle 4 and 5, and then you'd add in Dome Bottom 3. So the last design bit I'll go over leading into the base is the ramp. And I'm really proud of this one just because you build ramps into bases all the time, but they're always pretty bland and boring. But this one's got some panache to it. Starting at the bottom left, in green, we've got basic cubes, and then one coloring error here, the green one below the checker is a cube 0.25M, and then right above that is a wedge narrow tip piece in the checkerboard color. The bulk of this ramp is made out of wedge 60 tips, which are in red, as well as wedge 60s, which are in both yellow colors, both the flat yellow and the lined yellow that looks like wood. I went with 2 different types of yellow just so that you could see the blocks more clearly. So let's go ahead and zoom on into the top portion of the ramp. Starting in orange, we have plate ramps, and the reason I use these is because they go flush straight into security grates, which we have here in that kind of pink magenta color. Similarly, on the bottom, we leverage plates in that camo color. And this is a trick you'll see me commonly use in bases because it allows for a lower profile for things like spotlights in this case, or if you're running any other type of electronics and you want to hide them in walls or ceilings. And then lastly, on the top right of the ramp, we've got a wedge narrow tip, a wedge narrow low, middle, and high. The wedge narrow series were one of my favorite sets of blocks added in Alpha 20. They have a lot of versatility. They can use both vertically as well as horizontally. If you look at the spires in Void's End, you'll see a lot of usage there. So that's going to be it for design. Let's hop into Horde Night. I went ahead and popped some vitamins and had a little bite to eat. We're going to flip the traps on. And then in terms of setting for Horde Night, we're going to go with insane difficulty, 64 zombies with nightmare run speeds. And then per standard, we've cranked it up to day 7000, which gives us a max game stage of 720. I've maxed out the character level, but only used 100 of the 300 points available for perks. And there's the Horde bell, so let's get to it. Come on up, gents, single file line. Line up nicely, there we go. How do you feel about grenades? No? Fair enough. Well, so far I'm feeling pretty good about this. Oh, ow. Okay, I'm not feeling good about this. Gotta back up, get some quick heals in. Looks like we lost the blade trap. Let's see if we can get it repaired and working. Nope. Let's switch it. Oh, shit. Oh, God. All right, so we've lost the switch, so that's out of commission. So we can just hold this position as long as possible, and then we're gonna have to pull them upstairs to the next fighting position. I gotta say, I didn't think that grenades would work so well on this base, but just nesting them up against that security grate is phenomenal. So for this fighting position, we're not gonna repair anymore. We actually want them to bust through, because otherwise we gotta flip those 2 hatches and let them by, and it's a little dicey. So for now, we'll just liberally apply grenades and see if we can thin them out. Y'all can let yourself through anytime now. It looks like they're starting to weaken that block right above the right side there. So let's go ahead and pivot up to the top and get set up. The one thing you got to be careful of is rounding the corner up here and making sure you hug really closely, because otherwise you'll launch yourself right off the edge as well. Let's get these shut off. Let's get the traps going. We are fully set up at fallback position 2. May the grinding and mulching begin. Man, this is effective. Did you see him fly? If it isn't blatantly obvious, I am definitely going to be ranking this base high on the fun factor, because this is an absolute blast. So much so that we crossed over midnight and I didn't even notice. One of the nice things I've noticed is once we're at the higher elevation here, we don't seem to be getting nailed from the cop spit from tops down on the ground. I assume that we're out of range that they would normally shoot you at. Do cops shoot? Is that shooting? I don't know. It's considered a projectile in the game files. Okay, they've been at this position a while. Let's go ahead and try to do some repairs and see how bad the blocks are looking. Actually not that bad. For the most part, these are in good shape. I think it's because they don't get a lot of time to actually attack. Plus, for the most part, they're being stun locked from those electric fences while also getting, sliced up by the blade traps. There's just not a lot of time for them to do damage to the actual blocks themselves. Okay, we got about 3 hours left of Horde Night. Let's go ahead and pivot to the other side. We'll leave these guys with some grenades. Give them a few last hits here. I think we're good to go. So we'll step on the trigger plate, run across the drawbridge. I don't see anyone following us, but we're going to go ahead and lock the bridge nonetheless. And then we'll head over to the other tower and go down to the first fighting position so that, again, we have a fallback point if something bad happens down there. So hug that corner as you're going around. And they have already repivoted back here. Welcome in, folks. Let's get the traps going for you. Give you that sweet, warm welcome. Boom goes the dynamite. Okay, not dynamite. Grenades. Don't use dynamite on your base, folks. We could easily hold them here, but let's go ahead and pivot up to the next position again, just to show you how the pathing works. And the nice thing is here, they're actually running through the blade trap down at the bottom until it runs out of durability. And coming on up here and then facing another set of blade traps as well as the electrical fence, which easily allows us to fend them off. With only 15 minutes left of Horde Night, this has been a breeze. I must say that the Void's End has been a beast. There we are. There it is, the 4 a.m. mark, folks. So at this point in time, it is nothing but cleanup. So while we're cleaning up these stragglers, I am going to go ahead and jump on into the rankings, and I'm going to start with survivability. So I'm going to go 9 out of 10, and the only reason I'm not going to go 10 out of 10 on survivability is that we were getting pelted by the cops in the first position on each of the towers. But otherwise, this base totally had our back. And I didn't mention in the settings earlier, folks, I'm not wearing armor. I am wearing clothing. The only piece of armor that I have is a helmet, and that is just so that I can have a helmet light. Next up is going to be the fun factor. And I don't know that I've given this to a base yet, but I'm giving 10 out of 10 for this base. I absolutely had a blast with this. It was stupid amounts of fun. The pivoting and the options and the different things that you can do to engage in combat in this is just just the hilarity of them launching themselves off the edge. So 10 out of 10 on the fun factor. Now on to a couple scores where I'm going to give some really low numbers, some of the lowest that I've ever given. For expandability, I'm going to give this thing a 3 out of 10. And I know that sounds strange, but here's the thing, folks. The way I designed the orbs at the top, specifically in the main spire, there is no option for removing or adding or doing much of anything. Because if you screw with any of the blocks, that orb on the top is going to come collapsing down. It is almost entirely red when you look at it from a stability perspective. The other area that I'm going to ding it on is going to be on multiplayer. And I'm going to give it a 5 out of 10 for multiplayer. And you know what? I didn't even think about this. I built this on the fly on a YouTube stream with people giving, ideas and concepts. And I wasn't really building for multiplayer in mind. And so there's not a lot of good fighting positions when you're actually engaged. So there's that primary melee. Maybe you could fit 2 people, 3 even would start to get crowded. Then the last setting is going to be maintenance. As I'm looking around, they didn't even touch any of the pillars on the bottom. You would have to repair the fighting positions, a few of these stairs here and there, but for the most part, the base went untouched. So I'm going to give it 8 out of 10 on maintenance. So folks, that is the Void's End. This is my last big base build for Alpha 20. I had a blast putting this together. I hope y'all have enjoyed it. And if you're curious about my plans for the Alpha 21 streamer weekend, stay through to the end. Oh, don't go away yet if you want to hear about Alpha 21 and my plans for streamer weekend. So here's the deal, folks. What I'm going to do is I'm going to stream day 1 through 7 on a solo playthrough on Friday. And then on Saturday, I'm going to do days 8 through 14, so you get 2 Horde Nights. And then on Sunday, I'm going to do a multiplayer game with a bunch of my community members and some other content creators that I'm bringing to bear. So stay tuned for that, folks. It's going to be incredible. I can't wait to show y'all all the cool stuff that's going to be in Alpha 21 and experience it at the same time together. So that's what I got today, folks. Thanks. I appreciate all the support from the folks over here, especially. And if you're curious about bases like this, for download and otherwise, go check out my Patreon. I don't know, I'll link it somewhere around here. But otherwise, folks, I can't wait to jump into Alpha 21. I'll see you soon. Take care, all. Cheers.